Have you ever noticed how painted images are all around us? That's where I come in. I'm a curator at an art gallery. I choose paintings for people to look at, and I'm on a mission to show you why looking is worth it, to show you why painting it can challenge you, play with you, and even lift your soul. Come with me on this journey through art and you'll see the world through new eyes. The world is full of things worth making a noise about, and people try. They stand up, they sit in, they march on, they shout out. But how does something as small and quiet as a painting make itself heard on these whopping topics? Have you got an issue? Take your pick. The issues are coming at us 24/7, full volume and from every side. More trouble and strife and injustice than anyone could hope to hold on their head. Now, artists are like anyone else. They are troubled by these things too. But can painting, this incredibly still and silent medium, get to grips with these issues and shake us awake to them too? Can painting make a difference? Now, 200 or so years ago, painting served a political purpose all right, but it wasn't always to question power, to protest. Back in the day, the artist was a kind of ad man for authority. This was history painting, and it told history on the terms of the victor. And these paintings had power, widescreen, high def, with casts of thousands. Then in blasts this, The 3rd of May by Francisco Goya, the first history painting to take the side of the victims, Spaniards who stood up to Napoleon's army. There's no glory here, no victory. The captives are helpless against the firing squad. Death dealt out to an endless queue of ordinary people. Painting was becoming a way to criticise authority. By the 20th century, we encounter a new figure, the figure of the fully engaged artist, the artist who speaks truth to power, who deals in unsavoury realities, who wants to break through the crust of public indifference and give a voice to those who do not have one. In 1937, civil war was tearing Spain apart. Under General Franco's orders, bombers attacked Guernica in southern Spain. The town was devastated. The same year, Pablo Picasso created a devastating response with this mural. Everything's anguished, shattered, spiky. Broken images of a broken world. A Nazi officer is said to have asked Picasso, "Did you do this?" He replied, "No, you did." Here in New Zealand, artists get just as fired up about protesting the world's wrongs. And one topic in particular has them fired up. You're standing on it. Land. Who had it? Who took it? Who lost it? The costs of that loss. Scratch the surface of the land in New Zealand art and all the issues well up. Belonging, civil rights, the tussles of history, and the struggles of today. The Land March of 1975, coursing down the country. The Bastion Point protest of 1978, a staunch standoff near some of Auckland's poshest real estate. As they beamed into the nation's living rooms, these events literally changed the landscape, shaking New Zealand awake to an urgent Maori spirit of protest. But as an artist, how do you match that spirit? For Emily Karaka, you do it with urgency. Colours that jump from a mile off. Brushwork that gets stuck right in. Rough canvas edges like homemade banners. And a constant sense of visual pressure, so every inch of the painted landscape speaks. For Robin Kahukiwa, you do it with directness. She puts her skills as an illustrator to startling use, filling bright, clear, childlike landscapes with a parade of grown-up wrongs. This is history painting with its heart on its sleeve and blood on its hands, painfully blunt. Kahukiwa has no time for niceties when injustices pile up. But this raises an issue. For a painting to be worth the effort, it's got to deliver more than just a slogan. So how do you turn viewers on to the things you care about, and how do you keep them there looking and thinking? There's only one person to go to for an answer. No New Zealand artist has opened his paintings as often to the noise of wider issues as Ralph Aotearoa. One of his best known as a response to the rage that flared against apartheid in South Africa. Aotearoa let the rugby union know how he felt about the issue by stamping a battered steel shield with NZ as a swastika. And he dedicated a beer crate filled with Molotov cocktails to the land of the wrong white crowd, ready to be thrown onto the field of protest. Why does Ralph Aotearoa matter? I think he matters because he connects the silent language of modern painting with the rowdy language of protest. In Sangro Litany, Aotearoa uses symbols to make his art speak. Sangro is the gravesite in Italy where his brother was buried after being killed in World War II. The numbers represent the age of death for members of the Maori battalion. His brother Jack was just 21 when he died. Those numbers form a Christian cross, and beneath them is another cross, an angry X, possibly protesting a senseless loss of life. Further down, a chant calls his brother home to a spiritual resting place. This personal grief is powerful because it's held back beneath the black. And in Dawn Water Poem from 1986, feeling and colour break through as never before. They take the form of a blind fury of red, breaking through Ralph's signature blackness from behind. These could be the classic reds of a Pacific sunrise. But come closer, read the word Mururoa, and make the mental leap to the French Polynesian atoll used for nuclear testing. They become the terrible beauty of nuclear threat to a cherished local landscape. This is Aramoana, near where Ralph Aotearoa lives. And although it's a mighty-looking landscape, it's a fragile place with a fragile ecosystem. And unbelievably, in the 70s, early 80s, a great seething monstrosity of an aluminium smelter was planned for exactly here. The smelter meant the end of all this. And the locals weren't having a bar of it. They announced they were founding a new country, the independent state of Aramoana, complete with passports and stamps. Aotearoa joined the protest, flinging pots of his black paint onto the smelter company's signs. And he fumed in the studio, framing up views of a local landscape under threat from spills of nasty, toxic stuff. How does an artist create a connection between the world of art and the turbulent world of issues beyond? Well, Ralph Aotearoa's answer is to pay attention. When we look at a window in the daytime, what we see is the view, but Ralph paints black windows. He's referring to that effect which occurs at night when the light drops away, and when we look out a window, we see ourselves seeing. The window becomes a space of reflection. But there's more. Aotearoa has filled the window with his favourite symbols. Always that thin white fuse of horizon. Then the line of white straight down like a gun's sights trained on that distant landscape. Squalls of white paint move in just about a bad weather or some more toxic apocalyptic cloud. The words "towards Aramoana" appear, but written backwards, as if to be read by someone out there who's looking back at us. And there it all is. The reversed words, the squalls threatening the landscape, the crosshairs targeting the view, all literally framed within a window. And then there's the date, the 24th of June 1982, the day after the plans to build the smelter collapsed. A day of victory for the citizens of Aramoana. Time and again, artists use painting to open our eyes to threats and injustices in the world right outside their windows. But what happens when the things that stir a painter are on the other side of the world? Artists address issues. That sounds simple enough. Choose your subject, make your artwork, and send it on out into the world to be heard. But in fact, it's trickier than that. Here's a lineup of protest art that's wonderfully well-intentioned. From anti-nuclear posters to the state of the environment to war and world peace. Up close, I get the message. But pull back and everyday life starts to cloud the signal. Far from looking fierce and in your face, this stuff looks a bit forlorn. And if this stuff is having trouble making itself heard, what happens to art on the walls of a quiet, out-of-the-way gallery? Only one way to find out. I'm going to meet a maker of extraordinarily quiet paintings. Jude Ray's works are some of my favourite things to look at. She makes ordinary things extraordinary through the quality of her attention. But her still world also contains hints of pressure. Gas canisters turn up, tents as primed bombs, and in this calm room, a map of Iraq hints at a distant war. Do you as an artist feel more obliged than any other citizen of the world to engage with these bigger issues?
I don't feel obliged. I feel compelled to not ignore things. No, it's not even a matter of compulsion. I sort of can't. Everyone's got an obligation to be aware of what's going on. And it comes down to what you can do in your own small way about it.
So if someone said to you, well, look, if you're an artist who cares about the world, you ought to be out there stoushing and, waving a placard and what use are you to the world, sitting at your easel in a small room. How do you respond?
There are many more effective ways to deal with the immediate and myriad problems in the world, but I think that painting can provide a medium for reflection. It's not an art form that will push you there. You have to go there after it. And so it only speaks to people who are willing to listen.
Into the very still world of your paintings recently came something very unexpected. Can you tell us a bit about Beirut burning?
The image I came across was just a web image. This is a group of guys standing on top of a hill overlooking Beirut airport, watching it burning. And there was a sense of the resignation of civilians, watching disaster happening. And it remained with me for a couple of years, and the scale thing kicked in, and I thought, I wonder what it would look that big, whether I could do it, whether I could carry it off.
Now I need to know too. Jude has a show on at the Jensen Gallery where this protest work is being exhibited. And here it is. It's a terrific painting in both senses. Terrific in that it's confident and grand, but also in that it's terrifying. At first glance, that sunset appears beautiful, picturesque, but look closer. One realises it's apocalyptic. It's a terrible kind of beauty that Jude has articulated. A group of people stand on a ridge. Their backs are to us as they look out towards hazy clouds of smoke rising in the distance. Huddled, comforting each other, cut off from their world. What are they doing up here? What are they looking at? And there it is. On the left, barely noticeable at first, are burning buildings. Bombed, burning buildings that these people have escaped from. I'm fascinated by this figure here and what it is he may be holding up. I think it's one of these things. It's a phone. He's photographing the scene. Jude has chosen not to paint the main event, not the fire and destruction below. Instead, she paints the people affected by the devastation. She paints the lookers looking. And what strikes me now more than anything is this rain, these tears streaking down the painting. This extraordinary veil of paint runs made by mashing the brush time and again across the top of the painting, this ritualistic, almost aggressive gesture. And the result is this shimmering, flickering field of colour, a marvellous sense of risk, because if too much pigment came down, the painting might be lost. This veil of paint slows down our seeing, makes us struggle to get through to the view. There's a feeling that the artist is seeking to recover the truth about this historical moment, but struggling to. So this, for me, is a history painting with a twist. It's a history painting about how hard it is to be a witness to contemporary history. Jude's painting makes a statement, and it makes you stop and think. But this painting is made to hang indoors, protected from the outside world. Painting used to be propaganda for ruling powers, but then artists took it back in the name of free thought to make statements about the world and the condition it's in. Painting asks us to reflect on wrongdoings of the past and stand up for global and local issues. But outside of the gallery, does this quiet medium communicate with an audience? Artists often address issues of social injustice through painting. And when they make paintings about issues, they don't always want the message to be subtle. They want to shout out to the viewer, to shake them into thought and action. British artist Sue Coe makes gallery art with the bite of the fiercest political cartoons. She fires off volley after volley of righteous graphic anger. Animal rights, workers' rights, George Bush's wrongs. Other artists leave the gallery behind and address the audience on its own turf. Graffiti decries child soldiers, protests unjust imprisonment on the West Bank, speaks out about gun violence in America, and objects to certain politicians. And here in Christchurch, a big public wall is awaiting words of protest from artist Fiona Jack.
I'm interested in people having a voice.
Fiona makes protest paintings that exploit the power of walls and words. She's confronted community issues with a mural in Chile and responded to unjust imprisonment with quiet anger. In her latest protest, she's collaborating with passers-by to transform this public space into a mouthpiece for their concerns. What does being outside give you and give art that being inside doesn't?
I guess it sort of has a lot of noise around it, and that always feeds into the painting. You know, as opposed to being inside a white space where it's quite hard to insert that noise.
Fiona wants to say something with a twist, because what exactly that something is going to be up to the public. She plans to paint our protests.
That comes from a long line of thinking in my work related to an interest in protest, an interest in social collaboration, and turning that into a mural is kind of, I guess, an idea of creating a glimpse of collective thinking.
Do you get nervous at the outset of a project like this? Because it could be the wall of energy, or it could be the wall of total apathy, couldn't it?
I've never relied on people wholly for the content before, so I guess that's a little bit nerve-wracking.
Fiona's ready to go, but the mural won't be much if people don't share their worldly concerns.
Ah, sweet. Awesome, thank you. Okay. Well, I'm asking what is a political idea or situation you feel passionate about, and so far I have the live export of sheep, communism. The second question I ask is, at what point would you initiate or join a protest about this, knowing that the protest would actually make a difference?
Fiona has her work cut out. It'll take several days to complete the project. And with the public opening up, protests have been flooding in. But you've got a good sheaf of responses now. Have they tended towards the hopeful and idealistic, or the bleak and pessimistic?
I guess a few people have really commented that they really wouldn't join a protest, either because they find them threatening. So, like this person down here wrote that protests get out of hand. Somebody over there wrote protests are bullshit. That's obviously someone who really doesn't believe in collective speech. Bigotry, sustainability, you know, I'm running the gamut of responses here. It's like, yeah, it's pretty much everything, really. And some more kind of philosophical statements as well.
Yeah, this is pretty cool. I live what you believe, don't hold up a sign about it. Then again, that could be read as something that's quite barbed about exactly what you're up to.
There's an ambiguity to a lot of them. Like, communism, is that something that they have a problem with or that they are inspired by? I don't know.
If you turned up tomorrow morning and comments had been added, how would you feel?
Yeah, no, that'd be fine. I mean, that's what graffiti writers do. They expect to be then appropriated by somebody else. It's part of what it is. It's a part of the conversations.
I picked up a sheet the other day. There's mine.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
And I'll
All right.
check in and see if it makes it to the wall. Fiona's wall of protest is finished. One opinion tangles with another and another, creating something no one could have foreseen. The wall's a sounding board, an opinions page, a sample of what stirs us up. And it fills a cold and quiet space with welcome blasts of noise and heat. So, a simple question, why red?
It's really simple, simply a response to the history of protest, really, which is revolutionary movements, social change. All of those kinds of ideas have often included red in the form that they've taken.
Oh, and there's wonderfully subtle things happening. And these layerings are terrific. You know, where something was written, it almost looks like it's been rained on, then painted over. More inscription. Inscription over the inscription.
Yeah. I've kind of, where some people have had a rethink of their idea too, I've translated that.
Fiona's given people a place to voice their concerns about the world's problems.
Having debates and talking about painting and talking about politics and talking about protest and whether it's worthwhile or not worthwhile. It's been quite great, actually, yeah.
Yeah. Doesn't look like my issue made it. Maybe that's my cue to come back with a spray can. Artists have been using painting to take a swing at issues for hundreds of years. Some speak out about problems close to home, while others take on issues in the international ring. Still more bust painting out of the gallery and plant it in the street, in our faces, all in the hope of sparking thought and change. Painting is not a solution to the world's woes. It's more like a lookout, a space of calm from which to reflect on all the turbulence beyond. The issues on the news fly by so fast, but by taking one of those issues, slowing it down, remaking it in the studio on their own terms, a painter can make us look for longer and think harder about the world outside.